Welcome to the NuGym podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first interview edition of the New Gymnasticry Report. My name is Earl D, and I'm here today with the cast of Disrobed. This is a really exciting new virtual event that's going to be launching, streaming in a couple of weeks. In fact, one weekend from now over the Martin Luther King Day holiday weekend. And we have a couple of cast members with us today. And I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves and tell us what character or role they play in Disrobed. So give it a go.
Hi, my name is Troy Peterson. I'm the director, co-writer, producer, editor of Disrobed, and I also play the textile fiancé Eric in the film.
Hi, my name is Karen Lassiter, and I play the nudist mom of the mom and dad meet your parents kind of parents that her name is Sierra, so I'm the mom. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Hi, I'm Dave McLean. I play George, Sierra's husband. He is a college professor and an avid naturist. In fact, the character description says that he is so enthusiastic about naturism, he makes a Sunday preacher look like an atheist. So that's my character.
All right, thank you. So I'm curious, how did this all get started? I know that this is based on a play, the Barely Proper play, Unplayable Play, but how did this idea for a virtual event, Disrobed, get started and come into being?
Well, I think I can speak to that. So what happened was 2 years ago for the Hollywood Fringe Festival, Stephen Vlasok and Brian Knudsen put together a new production of Barely Proper, retitled Disrobed, and updated to be more 2019 than 1931. And it was an interesting play because not only was it the play that had way less characters, but also the audience had way less clothing. You had to be a nude audience in order to see the new play. So I was in another show at the Hollywood Fringe, and I found out about Disrobed through a general show recommendation page, and I was like, well, this is a world that's always intrigued me. I've never gone to a social event like this before. I'll go to it. And I saw the play in its first run with a talkback and an after party, and then I saw the play again in its residency with a talkback and an after party because I love free cheese. I finally, they were redoing the whole cast in January, so I submitted to play Eric because, again, I'm an actor looking for good roles that I can play. So I'm like a nerdy, punny, anxious guy. That's me. I can do that. So I submitted in January, never heard back from them. The pandemic hit, and all the theaters got closed. I was in a show that had to go virtual after going back and forth for 2 months. And I was like, well, everyone's in the same boat. What could I direct and do over the internet, do virtually, that doesn't require a lot of big costumes? You can film in your living room and it wouldn't be distracting and would just be a fun, positive, interesting piece to do. So, of course, I was like, wait. That's Disrobed. I can do Disrobed. Mm-hmm. So luckily the script was online and it had Stephen Vlasok's email on it. And it said, if you want to do Disrobed, just email him. So I emailed him. He gave me permission to do a version of it that took place as a Zoom call. And once he saw that, he gave the go-ahead for us to do our version.
Well, you know, Troy is giving a good background there, but he's being unduly modest. Because what he and Steve did is update this very old story, not just in terms of a theatrical production, but to really tap into the zeitgeist that was 2020. Doing it over Zoom, it sounds mundane, but it's not. He and Steve came up with a very clever, very fun script, well thought out, well-rounded characters, a story that is very relatable, and I think that as far as setting us up for success, they hit it out of the park.
Yeah, definitely. There is elements of the script as an actress, as you're reading through it and realizing they're really referencing COVID. I mean, we're in the throes of COVID. This is actually how this family gets together to see, in quotes, see each other and do their, reunion, if you will, but because they can't be in person, they're in person. And it just seems so real. It seemed like things that Sierra and the kids and all of us would say to each other. It made it very easy to act. It made it very easy to memorize these lines. I've said this before to Troy, and I'll say it again. Writing does matter. Yes. Space of the script matters. What makes that so believable. And then on top of it, to get this cast that he was able to, and he'll probably touch on this, but be able to gather up this cast from one end of the literal United States to the other end. It's pretty remarkable. So. Yeah,
and when that was definitely an advantage that I saw immediately, because this wasn't just a local live theatrical production, because it was going to be done over the internet. He could cast his net very wide, and he could bring together the best of the people that were willing and able to do these characters. And once again, he hit it out of the park, because from the very first rehearsal that we all did online, I was very impressed with his casting and with the people that were going to be involved in this thing. I come to this project with a lot of experience, but when I saw what everybody else was doing, I pretty quickly started to feel like the weak link in this chain, that they were just being nice to me, letting me hang out, because I'll tell you what, everybody in here is so talented, and they bring such life to their characters that it was a tremendous amount of fun to rehearse and to do this play. We would have a 2-hour rehearsal scheduled, and then sometimes we would all stay online for another hour or two just talking with each other, because it's such a fun group. It's such a wonderful group of people. We enjoyed each other's company, and we really hope that comes through in our finished product as entertainment. I think it will.
So that sounds like, Troy, you were really the genius behind this and brought together a group that has a lot of chemistry.
Genius is a large word. Obviously, I'm very indebted to our casting director, Sarah, who, even though she worked a 12-hour assistant job, she made time to see over 50 people who auditioned, helped me make sure it was all comfortable for everyone at every step of the way. And yeah, I was so lucky. We had a lot of talented actors try out, like so many talented actors tried out. But the people we did get, like for this production, for this version of it, I couldn't ask for anyone better.
Well, let's talk about that comfort level a second. How comfortable were all of you with the notion of acting in the nude prior to this production? And what, if any, adjustments were made in that for the characters and for this particular production?
Well, Karen, shall I tell the story?
Yes, my dear, you can take this one.
Well, I became a naturist in the late 80s, and I've been to places like Whitetail Park, it was then, Whitetail Resort now, it was with the ASA when I first joined, and some other places here in Texas. So I've been practicing off and on for over 30 years. And when I saw an opportunity to join that passion with my passion for acting, I was excited. But I knew that the way the casting was worded, that if I had a Sierra to audition with me, I stood a better chance of getting cast. And I happened to have a friend and collaborator who I had acted with before. Karen and I had done 4 projects together before Disrobed, 2 as husband and wife. And we had developed a friendship and a chemistry. So I had been hesitating for like a week, but the day before my audition was scheduled, I called her up and I very carefully pitched her the idea of joining in on this project with me and doing the auditions. And to my surprise and great pleasure, she agreed to give it a shot. But her and I did not know each other that way. So when we got through the initial audition, which was clothed, and then had to do the callback, which was nude, I asked her to come over to my house, which is where we shot all this stuff. She lives just down the road. I said, come over hour and a half early. Let's casually disrobe, have some lunch, chat, become comfortable with it. And we clearly had a good enough chemistry to get past the initial audition. My concern was, are we going to be able to have that same comfort level nude? Long story short, we did. And I give Karen a tremendous amount of credit because she didn't have the experience with naturism to the extent I had, but she was game and she did so great. Because of her, we both get to be in this film.
So Karen, are you the newbie nudie in the cast then?
Am I the new nudie?
the newbie nudie.
Yes, you're right. Newbie, definitely. I have only a previous experience with my husband being nude in public at like resorts, hotels, nude beaches, very occasionally. Maybe one hand I can count the times I've ever done that. And that was later in life, when I was already married and kids have grown up and most of them had left the building or left the roost. And so this was like Freedom Central. I can do whatever the hell I want to do at this point. But honestly, Dave is a sweetheart. His wife, such a help to make me feel comfortable because, she had to be on board. We had to be, going to his house to do these rehearsals. So we kind of, had to kick her out of the area we were out most of the times so that we could do our rehearsal recordings. And she and Dave both have made this a really easy transition for me. And so I am not a practicing naturist and yet my hope in everything I do acting is that I can portray that character above all else that I'm being asked to do. And so that's kind of what drew me to this, that it was going to be a challenge, a little bit of a stretch for me, but I do like taking on challenges like that. And so, yeah, that's why I decided to say yay and not hang up on poor David when he called me.
And he's exactly what I was afraid was going to happen. I thought I might be ruining our friendship. So I was worried about that primarily, but something told me it was worth a shot because I knew how good Karen was and I knew how well we worked together. And I figured if we can climb this mountain together, this could be something very special.
Excellent. Now, Troy, now this is based on a play that had as its premise that it was a nudist family. How much actual on-screen nudity is in your screenplay, and how critical or not is it to your production?
Ooh-wee. Yeah, so when we say it's an all-naked film, we practically mean it. The only two characters, like Dave and Karen, again, their great credit. Them and two of the children never wear clothes in the film. They are nude the entire time. Even Dave and Karen, once we finally hit our undress rehearsal, they're like, we're never getting dressed again until this project is done. And of course, me as Eric, the textile, and Eloise, who plays Sky and interacts with the textile world, we have costumes we have to dig into our wardrobe. But yeah, it's all nude, and everyone was their own camera person, so I left it up to them how they wanted to film themselves. Most of the time we're talking, it's based on a Zoom chat, so most of the time we're talking just from like halfway up or shoulders up, but I mean, no one in the cast is shy, so we all had to commit to being comfortable with full frontal and back nudity, and yeah. And it's pretty critical, obviously, because it is about a nudist family, so it is.
Yeah.
I hate the term gratuitous nudity because so much of the time that means, oh, this nudity isn't gratuitous, it's a rape, or this nudity isn't gratuitous, it's about a porn star.
Right.
Like that dramatizes nudity, but you couldn't say with this film it's gratuitous because that's just who these people are, and it'd be more gratuitous for them to pose and block and have blankets and pillows in front of them.
Right.
What was interesting to me when I signed on was, again, I had been a professional screen actor since 2016, and I had done a lot of different kinds of projects. So I'm not a household name, but I had been around the business enough, and I had been around naturists enough that I thought, okay, he is either going to have a bunch of actors who aren't really comfortable with the nudity or a bunch of nudists who can't act. And I was very pleased to discover that neither was the case. He found just the right people for every single character, and everybody in this cast is very comfortable with their bodies and can act. So that was such a thrill for me to realize when we started rehearsing.
Yeah.
So, Troy, take us inside. How did you get to that place? How did you find the right people for this cast in that you were recasting pretty much all the parts, correct?
Yes. There was one actor who was cast in January for the stage version, and I didn't know if they were coming back or not until like the week of callbacks, because I didn't realize her information had not been exchanged. Stephen hadn't let her know. So she is both the first and last person cast in it. But yeah, I mean, I was very nervous because I've made 2 previous films where there was nudity. People in film school joked I was the every film I ever made would have nude people in it, to the point that I almost considered stopping doing that. And then I had the idea for this project. I'm like, well, one more side. So I had experience making it comfortable for nudity before in my films, just being very upfront. This project did have the scary challenge to me of, because I wanted that complete comfort, because the project would be very boring if people were just bobbing up and down with their shoulders. I wanted that complete comfort from the actors, so I felt the new callbacks, which were present in the stage version, were just as important for this film version. And because we were non-union, like, it was a little worried because, like, how do you build that trust? So I made sure that we got the sponsorship of the Southern California Naturist Association so that people could tell we were legit. The auditions, no one signed up for an audition alone. I had my casting director, Sarah Stern, with me at all times in the audition, and in most of the callbacks. When she wasn't available, Stephen Vlasak pitched in. So there was always 2 people in the room. We always were there to make it comfortable. The first audition was clothed. We answered every question they could possibly have. And then when callbacks went out, they went out with a waiver that you had to sign that laid out exactly what the terms of the callback were. The only requirement at the callback was that you had to be nude for one reading of a side. But there wasn't anything in there that said you had to show us a specific part or stand far away from the camera. Like a lot of people who did those callbacks just did it from the shoulders up. Like Eloise, I don't know, she may have done it fully nude, but I wouldn't know because she only did it from the shoulders up, and that was fine. It was just to gauge your comfort level with performing in that space. And a lot of people said no. Some people even signed the waiver and then 3 days later said, no, we don't want to do the callback. And we said, that's fine. We appreciate you telling us, and that's a completely valid choice to make. And for the people who did do the callbacks, we were very, respectful. We talked to them. We allowed them to get dressed if they wanted to. A lot of people surprisingly didn't want to. They're just like, yeah, we're here. Let's just keep our secret. Yeah. So
that sounds like a very professional approach to it that really made the nudity part of the art and part of the production, as opposed to something kind of extraneous, gratuitous, like you said, or titillating.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. When, as actors, we have to be careful when we see casting calls that involve nudity, because there are creeps out there. There are people that are less than reputable, and you want to make sure that if you're going to put yourself out there like that, it's for something legitimate. But because I had also been a naturist, when I read the casting call, I could just tell, the professionalism was very much on display the entire time we've been working with Troy, and the concern for everybody's comfort level and feelings and all of that. But on top of that, I was able to tell just by the way he worded certain things that this was legitimate. I wouldn't have called my friend Karen to do this with me if I had seen any red flags. There weren't any, and I trusted Troy. Karen trusted my judgment on this because I had been around it more than her, and everybody's trust was validated by the way all of this came together.
Yes.
And I was going to say one other thing I also forgot to mention was I attached, much like Steven had done for the stage version, I attached the whole script online. You can read the whole script online, and I could tell the actors, I'm like, we're very public about what's in this movie. We're not changing anything last minute. This is the film. This is what you agreed to, what you're agreeing to. So they could see that it wasn't going to turn into something untoward halfway through production.
Yeah, good point.
So, plus we were all on Zoom, so any one of us could have bailed at any point. So if Troy was trying to do something untoward, he did a very bad job of it. But
right.
It wasn't, and so there were no issues with anybody. I don't think anybody ever had any second thoughts, at least not that I've heard expressed, and certainly nobody dropped out. Everybody in the cast, as far as I know, has been very happy with the way this process has played out.
So one of the things I want to follow up with something you said earlier, we talked about earlier, and just wondering, did you intend to capture what was you mentioned was the zeitgeist, the moment? Because I feel like both from an acting and production standpoint and also the rewrite, you've really captured something that's happening in naturism as a whole, where so many things that used to be done in real life have now moved online. Was that what your intention was? Did you intend to capture that, or was that just kind of brilliant happenstance or a synchronicity?
Well, as the sole producer of this, I obviously want to make my money back, and I want to make something that I know will have an audience. And even before I had thought of doing this, I had been active in Twitter in the quarantine, seeing naturist Twitter and just being more active on it. And I just noticed this wave of naturist influencers and the Normalized Nudity Project and all this stuff that indicated British naturism's huge growth alone indicated that, okay, the pandemic, maybe it's shutting down traditional nude venues, but more and more people just in the comfort of their home are discovering this. So yes, this is the zeitgeist, and I feel a Meet the Parents narrative for it. First off, it makes more sense because I feel it makes more sense for Skye, the woman lead, to introduce her fiance to her nudist family over Zoom without warning than it would for them to go to their house and then find out. Because obviously you would talk about it on the way there. But also, no one was making stuff about the pandemic. No one is making stuff about the pandemic. People seem a little dodgy about making stuff like it or very perfunctory. So I just felt this was the perfect property for the perfect time.
And if I may dovetail onto that comment, I think this is very important for people to understand. Because the pandemic drove a lot of art onto the internet, there may be a temptation from people listening to this podcast or hearing about this project to think, oh, another internet project, another internet play or whatever. And I'm not casting aspersions on any specific production, but I'm here to tell you that Troy made wonderful use of the format. It's not just, hey, let's be original and do something based on Zoom, and let's do it because we can't do it anywhere else. That might be how it started, but that's not how it ended, because this is not an excuse. This is not, we're out of options. This is a legitimately creative use of the medium in a very entertaining format, in my humble opinion.
So it sounds, Troy, like I really wasn't that far off when I used the term genius of an idea. You're listening to the New Gymnosophy Report, podcast from clothesfreelife.com, and we're talking with the cast of Disrobed, a new virtual event that's going to be streaming live Martin Luther King weekend. It's going to be January 15th, 16th, and 17th. If you haven't heard about this before, you want to go ahead and get online and get your tickets to this virtual event, because once it's streamed, it's gone. Am I right, Troy?
Yes. So what we'll be showing you is a pre-filmed and edited together film performance, and we'll be showing that 3 times. And yes, right now, those are the only 3 dates we have to see the film, and we have no plans to put it somewhere else. But if the audience reaction is enthusiastic, you can get to see it more.
Teaser trailer.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, that's something I really want to take up with you next as we get ready to wrap this up. Because there is, by any measure, a real dearth of good quality material out there that is relatable for the naturist community, if I can use that term. We have a part of our website, the Naturist Movie Database, where we try to keep track of that stuff, and people are constantly asking us, what's the best movie out there to watch that's naturist based? And we said, well, there hasn't been anything really good since Act Naturally came out several years ago.
I think 10 years ago at this point.
Yeah, right. So I'm wondering, Troy, could this be the beginning of something that we could look forward to in the future? I mean, you did say that you got a reputation for yourself, and along those lines, what do you all hope the audience, whether clothed or not, naturist or non-naturist, will take away from this production and the virtual event on January 15th, 16th, and 17th?
Well, I'll just jump in and say I don't think it's giving anything too much away of our comedy to say that there is mention of an upcoming wedding at the end of the film. And in the original version, they go out of their way to say it will be a clothed normal wedding, but we don't. So there is a sequel hook there for a whole cinematic universe. if it's hit. But what I hope people take away, because I think this movie has as much merit for textiles as it does naturist or nude gymnosophist, if that's a term. We're making it a term. what I think the takeaway is from this is to show, like, there's no judgment, just letting down your defenses and just accepting people, because a lot of people will go, oh, a naked person in front of a camera, that'll be, like, they're trying to do something sexual, or just trying to do something really specific, and just seeing people talk, like, we're a funny cast, we're a talented cast, like, I feel like just spending time and just hanging out with people just being themselves so completely and being funny and charming, even if you don't walk away from the experience going, naturism forever, nudist life only, we hope you still go, oh, you know, be free to be yourself and just to open up to other people about who you really are and just be open and empathetic. Just if someone comes away from a movie being more empathetic, I feel I have done my job.
Yeah, I think the thing for me is to watch this version, or this, you know, version of ours, Disrobed, I feel like there is something for everybody, because, you know, being, whether you're a naturist or in this case textile, watching in on this episode, it's something that you should be able to identify with somebody in this cast, because we have really seen the whole gamut. You know, we have Troy's character coming in completely blindsided about this family and how they live their life. And so, of course, that would be something that a textile individual, or even somebody coming in just thinking about the being a naturist, would identify with. The awkwardness of that, the maybe being uncomfortable seeing your parents naked, among other things. So, and then we got the other side of the coin, is like, how do you mesh with someone else's family who lives in that way. And I think we could put almost anything in place of this. It doesn't have to be nudism or naturism, but what if somebody's religion was very, very opposite of your own, for instance, or some other lifestyle choice? How as characters, how do they mesh that together? And I'm hoping people go away with seeing that, you know, love is part of this. The love and the comfortable nature that this family shows on screen is very important to the message that we want to portray. Is that it's really normal for them.
It sounds like there are. Go ahead, David.
I was just going to say, very, very well said, Karen. It just reminds me why I fake married you. And you know, if I could just chime in with my point of view, it's not all that different from what's already been said. But I was asked this recently in another interview about this project, and I can only speak for myself. We may all have different points of view on this, but for me, number one, we made this to be entertaining, and it is. I really think the audience is going to see it as entertaining, whether they're naturists or textiles or don't even know why they're watching it. I think they're going to be entertained. But a close number two is to allow people to see what naturism really is. That it's not about sexuality, and that it's about body acceptance. And this family, they're very different, but they all accept each other. You know, I mean, George is this firebrand for naturism. Sierra is the caring mother who also sometimes needs to calm George down and tell him to rein it in a little bit. And then we have these three children. One of them is a accomplished scientist who's on a research project in Iceland, and the other daughter is described as a polymath. She is an artist, and the son is a musician. And each one of them not only has their own thing, but they have their own personalities. And when people watch Disrobed, my wish is, you know, from my perspective as one cast member, my wish is that people are going to see how much fun we had making it, see how much this family on screen loves each other, and go away saying, you know, I wish that was a real group of people that I could hang out with. If somebody walks away with that attitude, then we've accomplished all of that.
Yeah, just to chime in real quick, one of my goals with this was definitely to avoid the pitfalls of a lot of nudist, naturist films in the past, and to show the people all as completely different and distinct. Like, in the past, I feel all the nudist characters just live on a colony, and they all have the same personality. They all just kind of blandly talk about how great nudism is, and they're indistinguishable, and who would want to be a part of that? Who wants to lose their individuality? So bringing out and preserving the individuality of all the characters that were in Steven's rewrite, and just teasing that more with even more specific stuff about their careers and dreams and personalities, that was a big goal of the production.
Mm. It really sounds like there's a lot of points of connection in this production, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it and seeing all the effort that you all have previewed for us here. And maybe we got a scoop. I know you all have been doing the interview tour, that there's a DCU coming up. I hope we do get more, inspires others and motivates others to do things like this that are, both artistically of a high quality and also, relevant to a broad cross-section of people as it relates to a naturist ethic and a nudist practice. You've been wonderful guests. I hardly had to say anything, but I guess that's what actors are right? You should have that capacity. You've been listening to the New Gymnosophy Report. We've been talking with Karen, David, and Troy, the cast, director, and producer of Disrobed, a virtual event coming live streaming to you on January 15th, 16th, and 17th. 3 occasions. You can visit the Hollywood Fringe website for your tickets. That's the place you get tickets, right, guys? Is there any other ticket outlet?
Not for these 3 performances. Just go to www.disrobed2021.com, and it will take you right to our Hollywood Fringe page with showtimes and tickets.
So that's www.disrobed2021.com. Write that down and get your ticket if you haven't gotten it already. We've gotten ours. I'm excited for the date to come up, and we'll be posting a review online after we watch the production of Disrobed 2021. And I want to thank my guests today, Karen Lassiter, David McLean, and Troy, for joining me on this second episode of the New Gymnosophy Report to share about the upcoming online production, virtual event of Disrobed. And thanks again, folks, for joining us. And I really appreciate your time and patience with getting through the challenges.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much for having us, Earl. I mean, really, thank you. We appreciate it so much. And I would like to wish you all the best on your future podcast. It's great that we were allowed to be in on the second one, and we hope that this just takes off from here for you.
Yeah, thanks for just putting this on a lot of naturists' radar, because we're a scrappy little group of actors, so anyway, word out.
Yeah, and we love to do that. It's on our naturist event calendar, and we've actually created a page in the our naturist wiki for this event. So there's lots of opportunity for people to find out more about it and to get connected with it. And we hope that they do take advantage of the opportunity to participate in what we think is a unique event that we're anticipating is going to be the first of some great stuff to come. And we're looking forward to it a great deal. My name is Earl D, and I'm the host of the New Gymnosophy podcast. And I want to thank my guests again for joining me, the cast of Disrobed 2021, Troy, David, and Karen. And I look forward to sharing more information, resources, arts, and entertainment that is related to New Gymnosophy and naturist life with you in the future. This is Earl D.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.